So I'm going to invite up Dieter. Dieter on the mountain. Is he here?
You're weird. Don't like you very much. You got my name wrong. It's Schwenkt. Dieter Schwenkt. SCHPHENGKT. I don't normally do shows like this, but there was some cash involved. Dieter has very expensive lederhosen, as you can see. These are authentic. I have 8 pairs in rotation. So anyways, these guys from Kootenay Culture Magazine, and this guy, Mitchell Scott, they have this podcast, I guess. Like, how about this, eh? Kootenay Culture Magazine, so analog, and they still do the paper, and now they've got a podcast. Like, way to go, ahead of the curve, guys. There's only like 5.9 million of them in the world. Good luck. Anyway, they have one season, and it's apparently it's doing quite well. It's called the Headwaters. So they want me to introduce. We're going to do a live introduction of season 2 here. They're doing a comedy episode, of which is basically a bio of me. You're supposed to laugh at that. We're recording right now. So, thank you. So I'm going to introduce the podcast. It's sponsored by Columbia River Basin Trust, which also gives me tons of money, and probably other people in the audience as well. So let's hear it for them. The money just gushes from these guys. So fantastic. So when I introduce the podcast, I will make a sign, and you laugh uproariously. Like, really, really let it out. As hard as you can. Like you have a sausage in your mouth, in your throat, and you're trying to get it out. You're laughing so hard. Okay. Hello. I'm your host, Dieter Schwenkt, and welcome to the Headwaters, Season 2, brought to you by Columbia River Basin Trust, and it's going to be hilarious. That was good. Maybe a little too short, but good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Scott, and as Dieter says, this is the Headwaters, brought to you by Columbia Basin Trust. I grew up watching SCTV, like so many people of my generation, because it was the funniest thing on TV, as funny as Saturday Night Live. And they were Canadians, doing off-the-wall humor that just wasn't on TV up until then. Then came the movies. Strange Brew was permanently in my parents' VCR, and the Schmengi Brothers, our very own Spinal Tap. Canadian comics are hilarious, and I'm just scratching the surface with the SCTV crew. Norm Macdonald, Dan Aykroyd, Jim Carrey, the Kids in the Hall, and newer talent like Samantha Bee, Seth Rogen, and Nelson's very own Thomas Middleditch. Canadians punch way outside their weight class in the comedy arena. We're getting quite a comedy scene here in the Kootenays too. It's just beginning to take shape, as you'll hear in this podcast about, well, you guessed it, comedy. We're going to start in Nelson. In the Queen City, comedy is thriving, like booming. You can't find a seat at some of the amateur stand-up nights. And there are all sorts of professional comedy shows that come through town. Comedy is a hot ticket. Filmmaker Amy Bohegan is here to help us understand why. Amy is a former cultural ambassador for the city of Nelson and has her very own comedy project in the works. So Amy, let's hear about the comedy project first.
Yeah, it's a sketch comedy TV series called Southern Interior, and we've been developing it for about a year. Got together some talent and some writers, and now it's time to pitch companies to try to get a license or see if we can develop it further across Canada.
And I imagine you're drawing from some of the kooky characters that we all know and love and see. So I'm wondering, as someone who's been doing comedy in Nelson for well over a decade, why is it all of a sudden booming?
I know, it's incredible. I mean, every single night sold out. You can't find a seat in any of these events because I think people want to laugh. It's such a thing now.
I was at open mic last night and it was packed. 12 comedians. But, 10 years ago, crickets.
I think Nelson's growing up a little bit. Maybe we're getting a little less earnest or something? I don't know, but let's go find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yan. Thank you for coming to the Kootenay Comedy Cabal presents I Feel Funny. Please make some noise.
So, at the stage at Kootenay Comedy, it's basically just, you know, you've been there. It's you. It's your neighbors. It's people who we all know and love, and we get to laugh at them on stage, but in a good way, right? And some of them, for the very first time, are getting up there. So brave.
If you melt too much dry ice, can you drown without getting wet? That's not a joke, that's a question. How much trouble are we in if computers start identifying as non-binary? Not a question, that's a joke.
We meet Peter Horak. He's lived in Nelson for 3 years. He's 45, and you know it. He's taking a form of early retirement to figure it all out. Classic Kootenay. So late last year, Peter went to a comedy night and just said, I'm going to try that.
Came to comedy here at mid-November and got inspired. Started to write jokes during that session, and I've done 3 since then, December, January, and February. Yeah, so I tried the first one. It went pretty well. I actually forgot my notes. I had notes written down in case I forgot something. I forgot them at home, got here. I was like, okay, it's me in the crowd. It was actually my best set. It's terrifying and inspiring and motivating, challenging. And yeah, comedy's a tricky game. Very, very new to this. So.
On Valentine's Day, I suggested a threesome with my girlfriend. She said, how about you focus on foreplay? I said, where am I going to find 2 more people?
That's funny stuff.
Yeah, not bad for a guy who just started a year ago.
And deep in a Kootenay crisis, it sounds like.
That's right. So basically, that's what it's all about. Everybody who gets up there has their own flavor, just like you would watch like a special on Netflix or whatever. But here, it's like there's another element. It's like got the Kootenay vibe, right? People just giving what they can up on stage and seeing what they get back. Peter's been doing it, and he's watched the scene grow and grow.
I don't know if it's the winter, but since November, every night has gotten busier. December was busier in November, January was busier in December, and February was packed in here. So like in the span of 3.5, 4 months, I've seen it double in here in terms of capacity. And then I've had friends texting me if I have extra tickets because they kind of thought they could just kind of come and walk in. So for the 4 months that I've kind of just had my toe in the water, it feels like it's on the upswing. The crowds have gotten bigger, and people going on stage has gotten better, where they're kind of suggesting there might be restrictions on, they might turn comedians wanting to go up away because they just don't have enough time.
So as an amateur comedian who spent a lot of nights sucking and sometimes being successful on stages in Nelson, I gotta say this is so fun to watch. It's a true renaissance of laughs. But it begs the question, why is it happening now?
I suspect we've all just been in the mood to laugh. I mean, it's been a really tough couple of years, and I think we're ready. And I think comedy kind of just helps us make sense of the world, but in an easier way than watching the news, you know? Everybody just wants to get out, connect, have a human experience. Don't you think we've all been kind of like dying for a laugh? We all just need to get out of our house or wherever we live and just go out and be with other people. I mean, I think that's what's going on. Even the introverts got sick of being inside, right?
It's either laugh or cry. And I think we were doing a lot of crying over the last couple of years.
Also, I mean, we're not living in a crisis-free world. I mean, everywhere you turn is super serious. So I think we kind of all need to avoid that and just go out and watch our neighbor fumble on stage, right? And here, it's part of our charm that you could go see your chiropractor and maybe your collections officer or your next-door neighbor on stage. I mean, to dig further into the question of why so much in this moment, we decided to put that question to Michelle Hart. Michelle did comedy professionally for years in Toronto, and she's amazingly talented, has lots of sketch experience, and somehow she ended up getting stuck. It was during the pandemic. And now she's here. She can't leave. We're not letting her leave because she's got great talent, and she's putting on shows, and she's teaching improv classes. Let's talk to her.
I think people want to get together more so now than ever before, and I think comedy brings a lot of people together, and people are pumped up about it. I don't know if it's that, like, the scene is booming and people are going to break out and go to LA, but I think it's like people are accepting and trying and excited to try new things. And now we're a community that's kind of held each other for a bit, and now it's like a nice blossom to see people trying things they haven't before. You know, I feel like everybody's got to live somewhere, and maybe now a lot of comedians are starting to live in the Kootenays. Maybe there's been that shift, but also just that need for comedy. It's needed, and I think it's bound to come out in people. I think the Kootenays is about to raise the bar for comedy.
Nice. I saw Michelle again last night. She was up there, and she was incredible, hilarious. But I want to take you back to our original question at the beginning of the podcast. Why are we light on well-known professional comedians?
But are we? It takes us a little longer to catch up to the rest of the world, and I think we're almost there, and I think we're going to have spotlights shown on us any minute now. We'll get there. I know we will. And we put this question to Danica Sukharoff, who hosts Kootenay Comedy Open Mic. I really liked her thoughts.
The community of comedy itself is just like kind of growing still and becoming a thing, so maybe because the community doesn't have that value or established scene, maybe just it's not a lot of people's radars, like sports, like outdoor sports, of course. You know, we're in the Kootenays. Music and art, those are huge things here. Like we have the music school and all of the different artistic disciplines for the schools. Those communities have been really strong and rich for a long time. And the performance community too, but stand-up specifically I think is still in baby step stages.
Okay, perhaps all of this amateur comedy, this boom that we're having and laughs, is all we need to uncover the next Kootenay comedic gem.
That's right. I think we should start maybe thinking about renaming it to like Kootenay Professional Comedy Night in a couple of years. Or maybe this next professional might just be Peter Horick. We'll leave it with him.
Some pray before they ski, others après ski. I'm worried skiers that use poles get labeled bipolar. It can develop into a split-board personality.
Taking it kind of one step at a time, because every time I do it, it kind of feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and I'm like, oh, okay, I learned something new about the approach or the delivery or timing, so I'm like, baby steps right now.
Considering a move to tag 'em, the gossip there is all about who's it and who's not it.
Amy Bohegan on the comedy boom in Nelson. So, if you decide comedy's your thing, how do you even start? Especially way out here in the basin. It's not like there's a comedy school or multiple clubs you can go and practice your craft. Sometimes you just have to get up and do your thing. Even if your thing is, well, totally off the wall. Like Ricky Diamonds. Ricky is a performer, singer, and comedian from the basin who was born for the stage. Lindsay Clegg checked out his set and brings us his story.
Check, check, test 1, 2, test 1, 2. So elegant.
You saw me standing alone.
Eric LaRocque checks his sound at an upscale, cozy restaurant in Invermere. You could say he's in a form of transition here, limbering up his voice, getting into character, becoming self-centered and unlikable. Finding his inner Ricky Diamonds.
Hey, how you doing? It's Ricky Diamonds. I sometimes just go into de facto radio voice. So I always like the idea of this over-egoed male singer that like is just like me. Whether you like it or not, it's me. I just go from there.
You knew just what I was there for.
LaRocque is 38 and lives in Golden, where his day job is working at the food bank. He's an accomplished singer, and for 7 years was in a band called the Broken Brothers. They toured and had some success, but the band finally lived up to their name and broke up. LaRocque still wanted a career in entertainment, but he didn't know exactly what that looked or sounded like. One night in Vancouver, He got up on stage in front of almost no one and started crooning.
And just literally see what I can get away with, push things as far as possible with certain boundaries I inserted on myself. But that first show, there was only like 5 people, and it was my friend and his mom. And it went fine enough that I wanted to do it again. Only the lonely know the way I feel tonight.
Ricky Diamonds was born. He's a velvet-jacketed, well-coiffed singer with just enough chest hair showing to make you uncomfortable.
It's just a man singing to backing tracks and slowly over the course of an hour and a half taking his clothes off and gesticulating around. I truly just want to see what I can possibly get away with on stage and have people be on board with it. But only the lonely. You know what I'm talking about. My whole philosophy with Ricky Diamonds is like never say no. Like how far can it actually go until I hate myself? Only the lonely.
Ricky Diamonds has been working rooms like this one for about 5 years now. Bars to bar mitzvahs. If you've got a crowd, Ricky will croon and swoon. There's as much physical comedy and campy burlesque as there is singing. Some people get it, some don't. He's okay with that.
Kids love it for some reason, I think because it's so silly. And then older people love it, boomers and stuff love it because I'm singing all their songs. And I think there's a little sweet spot basically from like 19 to 26 that hate it. They're kind of like, what the hell is happening? And then after that, everyone understands, oh, this is just a ridiculous thing.
LaRock has done this ridiculous thing all over the Kootenays and beyond. He figures he's logged about 300 shows as Ricky, but admits it's a tough slog making it as a full-time comedian-singer in the Basin.
COVID happened, and like the first people to go were entertainment, and the last people to come back were entertainment. And you need to eat, and so everyone that I know who is an entertainer has another job.
Luckily, his Ricky shtick has drawn attention and fans. With the help of a Columbia Basin Trust grant, he's made a record and a video with a full band and producer. Ricky's shooting for the big time.
I'm here. It's a new, fresh start for Ricky, and it's beautiful out there. You know, it's golden. It's not diamonds, but it's golden.
The Ricky Diamonds movie is his biggest move yet. The short film follows Ricky as he plots his Vegas crooning comeback.
It's all golden, baby! You look at all these towns on maps. Sundry or Gimbleford or something like that. It's golden spoke to me.
That's all I literally know how to do. It's like where I'm the most confident. I can I see paths. Anytime I get like another job, I feel stupid and I don't know what I'm doing. But I would love to be writing and recording music the way I did in May when I got to fulfill that grant, do all that grant stuff for this album. That was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever done.
Back in Invermere, Ricky's killing it at the restaurant. Initially, diners seem puzzled. Then they start singing along as Ricky grinds his way through the crowd. It's a good night, and it may someday be a career. Ricky says he'll know when he's achieved that.
When your name's on the marquee. Thought about this long. When you have, when you're organized and professional and you can live and make a living and you see incremental growth and sustainability in it, which is the most boring answer.
Ricky Diamonds, a.k.a. Eric LaRocque from Golden. Perhaps he's the gem in the rough. We'll finish up with a fellow comic talent to the west of Golden in Revelstoke. Katie Burrell's brand of comedy parodies the quirks of outdoor life in the Kootenays, and she is hilarious.
I unfortunately got my start in comedy because I had a crush on a guy that did comedy, and I thought that doing comedy might get his attention. The empowered self that I am, some 20 years later is horrified at that. But he took me on a date to a comedy show that he was in Montreal. It wasn't really a date. I thought it was a date. It wasn't a date. And I sat and watched his 5 minutes, which got a few laughs. I'll give him that. And I thought to myself while he was performing, I feel like I could do this. I feel like I'm funnier than him. And here we are. He no longer does comedy.
My name is Katie Burrell. I work in marketing in the ski industry. I watch the guides, athletes, coaches, going outside, skiing, doing whatever they do. Ouch. I'm okay. Well, I'm stuck behind a desk making them look good. And I've had it. It's my turn to shine. I've decided I'm going to become one of them. One of these ski industry darlings. One of these stars. I mean, they go up, they go down. How hard could it be?
Katie Burrell's backcountry comedy has brought her all kinds of short films and now a feature film. We'll leave her with the final word.
Sometimes I feel like this stuff just writes itself, and I just sort of stand in the middle. The original bit, the leisure as a rejection of this extreme lifestyle, was honestly just a riff in Colleen Gentleman, who I work with all the time's living room. And people just reacted to it when I put it out. I also have to say, so much of comedy is just your own personal experience. I was just finding myself in situations where I was just getting, bagged trying to keep up with these people, and creating comedy out of your own sort of foibles is all you can really do, speaking from first-person perspective. And so missing a kick turn, falling, sliding down 6 switchbacks while different various pro skiers laugh as I slide by them is comedy in and of itself. And the torment of being that sort of hapless individual in that space pushed me into the rejection of it, which is where I sort of found an audience for feeling like you're on the outside of that. I guess I realized it when just time and time again, something outrageous would happen during a ski day where I would be hanging on to my life by the skin of my teeth. And then we'd get out of the backcountry and I'd start telling the story over beers and we'd all be laughing so hard. And I was like, there's something here.
That's it? That's the full schnitzel? An entire podcast? Are you sure the trust is okay with this? They pay for this? They also pay me to say this. For more info about the trust and all of the good works they do when it comes to culture, and yes, even comedy, go to ourtrust.org. This will definitely cost you extra. Derek Cunningham edits the Headwaters. She should have edited that Mitchell Scott right out of the thing. He's the host of the show and editor-in-chief at Kootenay Mountain Culture magazine. It's a silly little magazine with silly pictures and silly words. I wouldn't bother looking for it, but hey, if you find it, it's free. And so that means it's wunderbar. For more, go to headwaterspodcast.com. I'm Dieter Schwenkt.